is their record. Hi, and welcome to the Week 4 edition of The Grid. Big week this week around Victoria. Of course, coming up on Friday night at Memorial Stadium, the big rivalry game between West and East. And we're going to start out with that. I'm joined as always by Ray Castillo. And we have a new guest this week, Tyre. Tyler, in case you don't know him, he's a Texas Tech graduate, and he joins us tonight. Tyler's been covering West, and Ray's been covering East. And we'll start with Tyler. Kind of tell us a little bit about West. They opened district with a win over Moody. How are they going into this game?
Well, I think it all comes down to the offensive line for them. Whenever that offensive line, is pushing people back and everything, creating space for their running back and quarterback, they've done really well, and they have a lot of confidence coming into this week. I know that Courtney Boyce and the team, they've really tried to build off of last week's victory and gain some confidence there.
Right, and of course, last week was a big week against Moody. Tyvon Hardrick had a big game. In fact, he's now the area rushing leader because of last week. So that'll be a big point. Ray, East had a tough time with Miller, although the game was close into the fourth quarter. So how would you assess the Titans coming into this game?
Well, yeah, their secondary looked really good. Believe it or not, you look at the final score, 42-14. You might think, wow, it didn't look too good for East, but actually, East held Miller to 7 points until the final minute, 55 left in the game. Miller, got 2 touchdowns real late. But East it helped them after that. They felt good about it, and they're hoping to carry that into West. And the big question is, are they going to be able to stop Tyvon? Like you just mentioned, he's having another sensational season. So that'll be the key for the Titans.
How is I guess let's talk about the defense a little bit. How has East been playing defensively?
Well, you look at I think the Miller game would be the game that was really just a breakout game for them. Miller being as good as they are offensively, their quarterback still, he passed Andrew Bodie, still passed for over 400 yards, but they really couldn't get going there in the end zone. East still, their biggest thing too has been the offense. I mean, they haven't been able to score the football, and that's going to have to change if they want to get back into this district.
And how about the West defense? I mean, early on they were getting cinched, although to be fair, the offense often put them in a bad position. Have they improved defensively?
Well, yeah, I think so. I think the conditioning has gotten better from them as the year has gone on. And like you said, a lot of times the offense would be, whether it be a 3-and-out or a big play touchdown, there was almost nothing in between early in the season. And when West has controlled the time of possession and done things like that, then the defense has been playing really well, as you've seen. That second quarter against Calhoun in the first game, defense played really well. And then last game, whenever West controlled the time of possession, it was, again, a really good performance by the defense. Looked like it was going to be a shutout up until the last few minutes.
And of course, the other factor about this game that it happened last year as well is this is very early for this game. Normally, we're playing this game later in the season. Here it is the fourth week of the season, the second week of district, and we have the big rivalry game. Obviously, East does not want to go 0-2. I mean, that would put them in a very difficult place as far as making the playoffs.
Yeah, it really would. This is a game where they feel like if they want to turn the season around, they need to win this game against West. And good thing for East is, and for West for that matter, is that the teams are going to be ready for this game and look to see give their best effort. This is a game they're looking forward to, and they're going to want to get up to play. Not saying they don't for any other game, but there's just something about that rivalry game where they want to get back. And if you look at the last 2 out of the last 3 years, if it's anything like that, it should be a good one, though. Everything has come down to the wires. Some of you might remember from last year and also in 2016.
And I'm wondering, just Tyler, maybe Ray, you can touch on this. Do you get a sense of how these teams are? I mean, their feel, their mood coming into this game. Obviously, I mean, there's no problem, getting motivated for this game. I mean, because obviously a rivalry game. But do you get a sense of where West is at coming into this game? I mean, Are they focused? Are they ready, you think?
Well, I really think they do. You know, last season was a heartbreaker for the West Side of things, and you know, the returning players have all really made it a point to prepare the younger guys for this game and get them focused. And Courtney Boyce was talking about how they can't be too amped up and things like that, and they've worked on that throughout this week as well.
Yeah, and I wonder too with the East. I mean, we've talked about this in the past. East has the 6-3 advantage in the series. So do you get a sense of confidence from these guys, or how do you think they're approaching this game?
Oh yeah, no, they're motivated. They want to keep the boot, they want to keep that on their side. And I mean, just looking at Twitter, I mean, those kids are going back and forth with each other, so it's always fun. They're motivated and ready. And East knows that West is going to give it their best. Not just because West has a good chance here to go 2-0 in district early, but to get back at their crosstown rival.
Right, and of course the good thing about this is the stands are usually packed at Memorial Stadium, and it really is kind of a playoff type atmosphere, which is great for the players to be in that environment and get a chance to experience it. And obviously, I think it's fair to say, I don't know what y'all will think about this, but I think the winner of this game, this gives them an extra little boost towards making the playoffs.
Yes, and that's what happened last year with East. They went up 2-0 in district to start the season early and ended up making the playoffs. So obviously it's a new year, but it does, like Mike, like you said, give them that extra edge.
Yeah, and I guess West would feel the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to start off District 2-0 would be a huge thing with the playoff race and, pushing towards that. And I know that all the West players are extremely motivated and trying to stay unbeaten in District.
Right, okay, so let's do this. Let's say, okay, Tyler, if West is to win, this has to happen.
They have to control the time of possession, I think. They have to be the ones applying force to the east side, and offense has to control the game, and defense, can't be on the field the entire game. If that happens, they'll be a win for them.
Okay, Ray. Now, if East is to win, what has to happen?
And they got to stop Tyre Hardrick. You look at last year's game, 4 touchdowns. He ran for over nearly 300 yards, and just really made the East defense pay. And that's really the key right there is to stop Hardrick.
And then, let's say this, what do you think might be the biggest surprise to come out of this game?
I would think East, the way they've struggled in the non-district games in the preseason, and just for them to come out and just put everything together. You saw glimpses of it in that loss to Miller. If they can put together a full game, that would be huge for them.
What about West? What would be a surprise for West?
Well, I think maybe a little bit more of a passing attack this week. East has struggled in the secondary this season. They've been pretty stout up front, but that's been something they've struggled with. And if West can put together a few big plays passing, I think that will propel them.
Okay, well, both Tyler and Ray will be at Memorial Stadium tomorrow night, and they'll, of course, keep you updated if you can't make the game. And even if you do make the game, kind of check it out. We'll have a lot of post-game stuff and stuff you'll be interested in. And, of course, it is, East-West is a big game, but there are a lot of games around the area this week. And our traveling team, the St. Joseph Flyers, they'll be traveling, but it won't be nearby this year. They've got to go to Tomball, which I hope the weather's okay tomorrow for the Flyers because they've had a lot of rain up in Houston, and they're scheduled to play Tomball Christian. And this is a very winnable game for the Flyers. They come off a really tough loss against Industrial in overtime. But I think it's also kind of a gauge game for them because this team played Fort Bend Christian last week, and Fort Bend Christian is in St. Joseph's district, and Fort Bend Christian I think beat this team by 1 point. So the Flyers should be able to gauge themselves a little bit after this game. And moving on down the road, speaking of Flyers played in Bloomington, while they were in Bloomington went to Louise, and Bloomington got a W. I know Coach Horn and the Bobcats were happy, ended their 9-game losing streak, and they play Pettis this week, which is a team that has struggled. So the Bobcats, what do you think, Ray? Can they they pull out a second consecutive win?
There's a chance. It would be another. They made history. Well, they didn't make history last week, but they won. Anytime you get a win, you never know what it can do for you. And Bloomington, unfortunately, hasn't had that chance to try to go for back-to-back wins. So it'll be, they're going to be motivated, and they're excited. And Pettis could be the team to do it.
Yeah, last week I saw El Campo thoroughly dominate Cuero, and this week the Ricebirds go up to Wharton for the Wharton County rivalry game. El Campo's had the upper hand pretty much over the last 10, 15 years, but this will be a big night for Wharton. They're dedicating the stadium. They made a lot of improvements up there. The Eddie Joseph Stadium is what they're calling it, and the Joseph family is supposed to be on hand. It'll also be homecoming for Wharton. So I know that there's going to be a lot of fired up Wharton people, but on the other hand, El Campo, they have three outstanding running backs. And if their offensive line continues to play like it's playing, El Campo is going to be extremely tough to stop. And I mentioned Cuero, the Gobblers go to Gonzales. And, we talk a lot about the Yoakum rivalry, but Gonzales and Cuero has always been a big rivalry. Those two used to get out after each other. There was a time, for most of the time, when they were in the same district or in the same classification, so they would meet each other all the time. But now Gonzales is D1, Cuero's D2, but still this game's a big game. Tyler, Gonzales 2-1 under a new coach. So I'm sure the Apaches feel like this would be a good chance for them to make a statement.
Oh, absolutely, especially after that win over Yoakum last week. The week before, Yoakum went into Cuero and thoroughly dominated them there. So I'm sure Gonzales is flying high and feeling that they can make a statement here.
Yeah, I'm sure Coach Waldy has done a good job there in his first year with Gonzales. So I'm sure they'll look at it. And we have another game which pits two undefeated teams against each other, Palacios and Ganado. That'll be up in Ganado. Palacios, the interesting thing about this game is both teams are starting a freshman at quarterback, which is very unusual. And both freshmen have done exceptionally well. Ray, what do you think some of the things we can look for here in this game?
Yeah, unfortunately, someone's going to have to get their first loss. But we kind of touched on this, the three of us earlier. Palacios, if they can get this win, that's going to be huge for them. We saw what they were able to do last year and starting off, getting a good start and making the playoffs. And Ganado, 3-0. Not even saying we're surprised, but it seems like Coach Bennett's putting things together, starting with their freshman quarterback, and it's paying off. So it should be a good one.
Yeah, and what's interesting here, Chad Graves, the coach in Palacios, and Brent Bennett at Bay City. At Ganado, he came from Bay City on Lupe Flores' staff, and Chad Graves, of course, came from Natalia. They are both in their second year, so this will give them, they've got their programs kind of established a little bit now. So I think you'll see some things and they're doing some good things. And I know Ganado is hoping to use this as kind of a stepping stone to kind of get back in the playoffs, which is where they want to be.
Yeah.
So quite a few games. There, also I guess I don't know if we talked about Yoakum trying to bounce back. They are playing Needville. That's going to be a real challenge for the Bulldogs. They have to go up to Needville. Needville lost by 1 point to Cal Allen last week. So Needville is in El Campo's district. So it's like Yoakum is now playing their fourth straight 4A team. And Coach Bo Robinson does this on purpose. He's always said that, I'll take a loss early if it pays off later. And I know he was probably upset about last week, but Yoakum is a team that's young and is going to get better every week. And I think that's what he's doing is by doing this is just preparing his team. And the one other game I wanted to mention, we have Shiner and Tidehaven, and the other one I'm going to mention too is Edmond and East Bernard. There you talk about another 2-3-0 teams, two slot T teams going against each other. Of course, Edna won on a field goal at the buzzer last week at Brazosport. And so they're carrying some momentum into this. I guess, Ray, one thing we know is it could be a quick game.
Yeah, that. Yeah, I got a chance to cover Edmond Industrial last year, and boy, that right before you knew it, the game was over. That slot T offense really drains the clock. So East Bernard and Edmond should be a good one and a quick one.
Yeah, and also the interesting thing, and you may have noticed this, Tyler, is East Bernard has thrown for a little bit, which
They
is surprising. I mean, I think I looked at the quarterback. He's completed like 75% of his passes.
Mhm.
Obviously, that tells me that he's play actioning and he's drawing the secondary up and he's throwing the ball. But that's still a pretty good completion percentage for a slot teacher.
Oh, absolutely, and it shows that he's really been playing off that slot team and tricking teams with his throws.
Right, that'll be at Cowboy Memorial Stadium for the matchup between the Cowboys and the Bravens. The Bravens come in and they're ranked like number 3 in the state in the Class 3A Division 2. So that'll be a good challenge for Edna, and it'll help them get ready for district. And as I mentioned, the Shiner Comanches are going down to El Maiden to play Tidehaven. The Comanches have just been rolling people right now. They haven't let up at all.
No, and it starts with that backfield. Those guys are just they want it this year. They know they're playing for these tough non-district games to get ready for district. I won't say who, but they got an opponent in mind who they might see later, and they want to be ready for that game.
Yeah.
But yeah, that backfield has done an excellent job so far, starting with Donnie and Tiffany.
Yeah, and also Doug Brooks, the
Doug Brooks,
fullback,
yes.
is both of them. I mean, just quite a combination for them. And Tidehaven, Tidehaven, they have a passing attack that's they have a leading receiver in the area, and so they can throw the ball. So that'll be good for Shiner because they'll get a test in the secondary to see how they handle that. And Coach Lucio, he always has a plan. We know Coach David Lucio from Tidehaven. And the thing about Tidehaven, as we talked about last year, very slow start, but there they are at the end of the year. They always seem to be there. And they actually went to the quarterfinals before they lost to East Bernard last year. So, it shows you that there's a reason for playing these games, that when you meet a tough opponent, you don't like to lose, but you do want to get better as the season goes along and get ready for district play. And of course, like we said, Ray and Tyler will be out at Memorial Stadium. I guess y'all will be arriving early.
Sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Be a little bit, parking lot will be a little more crowded.
Yes,
this week.
sir.
But we'll keep you up to date. If you can't make it out there, follow our Twitter feed on advosports.com, and we'll have all the scores that we can get. And then, of course, we'll have a lot of post-game stuff for you. And you can read about it on Sunday in the grid. And until then, we'll see you next week on